For our second video, we're going to go over some examples here. So in this case, we have a figure that has line X going right like this, line T, going down like that. We also have line K, which goes across this way, and we have line W. Okay, those lines kind of crisscross each other, and it makes 16 different angles. Okay, and so each one has been labeled there in place. We need to tell if this angle is equal to this angle, or if they give us some information, what does that tell us about the lines? Which lines are parallel based on that information? Okay, and remember, right here, these are the only ones that we know for sure. Alternate interior angles, if they are equal, then the lines are parallel. If alternate exterior angles are equal, then the lines are parallel. If same side interior angles are supplementary, then that would prove that lines are parallel. And if corresponding angles are equal to each other, then that also proves that the lines are parallel. So those are the only reasonings that we can use to prove lines are parallel. Okay, so let's look at number one. If angle 16, this one right here, is congruent or is equal to angle 1. Okay, in this case, if we look at our box, it looks like 16 and 1 are going to be corresponding angles. They're both the top left in that case. So if our corresponding angles are equal to each other, that tells us in this case that K is a transversal, and that line X right here, line T right here, okay, those are the lines that are all crossed by each other. So in this case, that tells us that X has to be parallel to T, because again, our corresponding angles that are equal to each other, 16 and 1, since they're corresponding angles and they are equal to each other, that implies that the lines have to be parallel. So X and T have to be parallel to each other. So again, you kind of have to do some thinking about in which case, or based on your angles that you have, which one is the transversal, and then which two are the lines that your transversal cuts. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Angle 14 equals angle 9. So here we have angle 14, here we have angle 9. This one is really similar to number 1. Again, if we make our box right here and a box right here, 14 and 9 are corresponding angles. Okay, and if our corresponding angles are equal to each other, that tells us that our lines are parallel. Okay, so in this case, which one is our transversal? It's going to be X. That's the transversal that cuts the other two. Which two is it cutting? W right here, K right here. So what do we know for sure then? K is parallel to W. Line K and line W, those ones are parallel based on our corresponding angles being equal. So again, if that's all the information they give you, 14 and 9 are equal, then we know K and W have to be parallel because of the corresponding angles that are equal to each other. How about if angle 1 is equal to angle 8? Now again, just by looking at this, you can kind of tell angle 1 probably isn't equal to angle 8. But we'll just go with it. We'll say that, okay, those two are equal. Does that relationship fit any of these up here? Are they alternate interior angles? Are they alternate exterior angles? Are they same side interior angles? Are they corresponding angles? They are none of them. They don't fit any of that information. Okay? So since they do not fit anything, the fact that angle 1 and angle 8 are equal tells us nothing about the lines. So we cannot say that any of the lines are parallel based on that information. It doesn't fit any of our angle relationships. Similarly, if we know that angle 4 is congruent to angle 10, okay, look at the lines that angle 4 is on. K and T. Look at the lines that angle 10 is on. Would be X and W. Okay, each one is on two completely separate lines. So we can't, again, necessarily say that they're alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, or corresponding angles. They're none of those relationships based on the fact that they're both on two different lines. So if they satisfy none of those relationships, again, you have to say that they don't imply any angles or any lines are parallel. Okay, we can't say any lines are parallel just based on that information. Okay, actually I don't need to erase. Just go on to the, oops, go on to the next page here. Okay, so again, we're going to keep going with our figure. Look at our angle relationships. Remember, these are the only four that tell us for sure anything is true. Okay, so number 5, if angle 3 is equal to angle 5, okay, does that give us any of our angle relationships? So angle 3 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles, and we know that they are equal. Okay, so again, in this case, the transversal is going to be T. That's the one that cuts the other two. Our lines are going to be K and W. So we would say we know that K is parallel to W because our alternate interior angles are equal. So that implies the lines are parallel. Okay? Let's look at our next one. Angle 12 equals angle 6. Here is 12. Here is 6. Okay? Again, we have to think, does that satisfy any of our angle relationships? Well, if we look at this line, X, this line, T, and we think of W as being a transversal, then 6 and 12 would be alternate exterior angles. If our alternate exterior angles are equal, that means the lines are going to be parallel. So we would say X is parallel to T because of our alternate exterior angles being equal. So we proved that those ones have to be parallel based on the angles. Let's go on to 7. If 14 plus 10 equals 180. Okay, again, does that satisfy any of our relationships? Well, those would be same side interior angles. If you add them up and get 180, then those are going to be supplementary. So because our same side interior angles are supplementary, again, we think X in this case is our transversal. The two lines it's cutting, W and K. So we would say, oops, I didn't mean to get rid of that one. I wanted K is going to be parallel to W because our same side interior angles are supplementary. So those would prove that the lines have to be parallel. And our last one here, number 8. If 5 plus 6 is 180, 5 plus 6, if that is 180, okay, again, does that satisfy any of these angle relationships up here? Well, if 5 plus 6 is 180, that's the definition of a linear pair. Okay, they're on the same line right here. They share this, oops, a little bit off. They share this angle, or this ray, and they add up to 180. So that just tells us that they are a linear pair. Okay, if we have a linear pair, that doesn't tell us that anything is parallel to each other. So in this case, because all we have is a linear pair, oops, yeah, grabbed the wrong thing, none. We can't say that anything is parallel to each other, simply based off of that information. All right, now we've got our last big example. This is an example of a proof that we would use with our parallel line information. Okay, so if we were given that line K right here is parallel to W, so I could kind of draw these arrows like this that shows, or it kind of implies that those ones are going to be parallel. We also know, because it's given, that angle 2 is equal to angle 3. Okay, that's all given information. What I'm trying to prove then is that line X is parallel to line T. erase that. Get rid of all that. Okay, first statement you always give, let's get rid of that, is your given information. Line K is parallel to W, and angle 2 is equal to angle 3. How do we know that? Well, because it was given information. Okay, our next statement. If K and W are going to be parallel to each other, okay, that implies that angle 3 plus angle 4, because they're same side interior angles, they have to be supplementary. Because we know for sure that K and W are parallel, they have to be supplementary. So, oops, clicked wrong area. So 3 plus 4 have to equal 180. And again, why do we know that? Because that's the definition of parallel same side interior angles. Okay, that was actually from our last lesson. Because we know K and W are parallel, then the same side interior angles that they make have to be supplementary. They have to equal 180. Okay, now let's look at this. If 2 equals 3, angle 2 equals angle 3, and here we have an angle 3, I can just plug in 2 everywhere that I see 3. So I can change that to say angle 2 plus angle 4 equals 180. What lets me replace that or just plug that in? That's substitution using steps 1. So this step plugging into this step. So substitution from steps 1 and 2. Erase those ones then. Okay, we said that angle 2 plus angle 4 are supplementary. If these same side interior angles are supplementary, that implies then, for sure, that this line has to be parallel to this line. X has to be parallel to T. And again, remember, what lets us know for sure that those ones have to be parallel? Well, because if they're same side interior angles and they are supplementary, then the lines have to be parallel. So we used this information, angle 2 plus angle 4 equal 180, to say, well, because they are supplementary, that proves then that the lines they're on, X and T, have to be parallel. So we've proved then line X is parallel to line T. And that should be the end of our video.